we're going to do the creek that I showed you. This one here.
Ah.
And actually, today, in preparation for doing a drawing of this beautiful painting, which is called Early Winter by Aaron Shore. It's beautiful. What I did in preparation for this, because this could be extremely overwhelming, especially if you're a beginner, but either way, it could be overwhelming. So simplifying what we see here before attempting to draw it is a good idea. And what I did is I took a tracing paper and I put it on the painting, and using my pencil, I went and I did, I used my pencil to shade the areas that I can see that are dark, like the creek over here and the trees here and the mountains in the back. And as a result, on my tracing paper, now we see this. And so therefore, this is more simple, I find, than, let me see, I have someone else who just joined. I find this is more simple than the actual painting. So see how the mountains in the back, they're just two shades. There is the light and there is the little bit of shadow areas in certain areas. We have the creek, which is very dark here. And then towards the front, there's some shadow and some patterns. So I just ignored those patterns. And the pine trees that are very dark, I indicated them here. On the snow bank that is along the creek here. So I indicated by going like this with my pencil instead of like this, in a lighter shade, those shadows. And those are the shapes of the trees that we see with the leaves in them. So this is something that is more simple to look at and less overwhelming than the other one. So this is something that you can do, that I suggest you try when you are looking at a subject matter, be it a photo or a magazine. And if it's too overwhelming, just take a tracing paper, or you can take a tissue paper, that we use in gift wrapping, and do something like this. Then looking at this tracing, you can start by just drawing just the creek with the mountains. Then, as a second phase, add the trees and the shadows of the trees. So this is an easy way to do this, a simplified way. During class today, I will do a demonstration of drawing this creek drawing. And before I do, to start the drawing, I'm going to first indicate the horizon line, which is approximately here. So on this beautiful painting, you have all the trees here that are in the foreground and the creek here. But right here is a line of trees that are very, very, very small. So this is what I'm going to put as my first line, which is approximately in the middle. So they're the further away trees. They're very small. That's what, because they are so far away. So I'm going to put this line as my first line. And on the tracing, you can see it. It's right here. It's about the middle. Let's see. Is it the middle? Yeah, it's a little higher than the middle. So I'm just going to put this line first, like so. And my creek starts pretty much in the middle of the square. Now, to do this creek, I'm going to first draw this side, and then I'm going to draw the other side. So the angle of the creek is about like this. So I'm going to start by doing a line like this. This is it. Maybe it goes a little further. Oops, I just lost my pencil. That's okay, I have another one. And then this goes like this, then it goes like this. I think it goes even further. Yeah, a little further away. And then this goes straight, and then it goes down. On the other side, the angle here, the little corner, the corner here is a little higher than the corner on this side. So the corner on this side is here. So the other one will be a little higher, probably about here. So first, like this. Then it goes down like this first, then straight like this. Yep. Okay, so we have the creek. Now before I put any kind of tones, now's the time to adjust my drawing. It's my chance. So I can adjust it, make it a little rounder if I need to, like here. I'm going to come around here like this. This is good. And this goes like this. I think this could be a little wider. So I'm going to go like this, make this a little wider. There. This is my HB, by the way, HB pencil that I'm using. And while I'm doing the demonstration, by all means, if you want to do your own drawing, you're welcome to do that. If you have your own creek photograph that you would like to draw, and you want to simplify it first, if you have tracing paper, you can do the trick that I showed. But if you don't have any, then you can just go ahead and attempt it. It's up to you. Now I'm going to just indicate those trees here. So the shape of those trees is like something, it's like a little grouping here like this. And the base of the trees, this is where the darkest dark is. It's not completely horizontal. So this is horizontal. It goes down a little bit, this area here. So I'm going to indicate that, and then I'm going to draw those pine trees. So the angle is like this, just about, indicating that. Oops. And now I have my pine tree. This one is like just a half almost. This is this one, and then there's another little one here. And then next to it, there's one that's a little taller. Not quite as tall as the other one. And then there's another one right here in the back. All right, so we have the trees, and we have this line here. Now we need the mountain. The mountains in the back, in this painting, if you notice, the peaks are not equidistant. They have different width between them. This one is shorter than this one, and this one's much bigger. And the height of the mountains are almost the same, but to make it more interesting, we can vary that. So this one's over here, and then it comes down like this. Then it comes down. We're just going to give it some kind of little peak here. Well, this peak is more peaky. It's a peaky peak, like this. And there's another one right here. And then there is this one is just very, very slow slope. Goes into the trees over here. And this mountain is another mountain that starts kind of like here, come down like this. There. So now we have some sort of a design, and before going into putting any kind of darkness anywhere, now it's time to adjust it if need be. And one thing that I'm seeing is that this could be more like this. It will make it more interesting. Like this, yes. And this, maybe it opens up a little bit more like this. So when doing these adjustments, I'm looking here, but I'm also looking at this overall design. Is this an interesting design? Do I want to make any adjustments to it? I'm allowed. I'm using my artist license. So this is just the trees. And this mountain here, I think it goes more like this. More to the middle, closer, more like this. And now that I've done this, then now I can go a little higher on the lower part of this. Using my kneaded eraser to make any adjustments. You can also use this kind of eraser, but I really like the kneaded eraser. All right, there. And now I'm wondering about this. I think this is too big, but it gives very much the impression that it's going from far away. The snowbank is far away and it comes towards us. All right, so that's pretty much my design. Very simple. And if I'm looking here, I can see that I have this line here that's very important. This is where the shadow comes down. So I'm going to put that in. And I'm realizing that the peak is actually a little bit closer here like this. And then it comes down. So I'm adjusting this there. Okay. Now's the time to use our pencil to shade some of the darkness in. I'm going to show you this a little closer. So right now it's just some lines. We have the creek here. That's very inviting. Now we have the pine trees here that are mixed with the grouping of trees. Then this is the dark mountain in the background. And these are the faraway mountains right here, all the way there. Is there any questions on this part of the drawing? Alrighty then. Well, I hope that, Leslie, you have found us by now. I'm going to use my HB to start putting in some of the shadow. So I'm going to look here as my reference guide, because when I did this, I was very careful using the darkest dark where it was actually the darkest here, and then a mid-tone for the areas that are not quite as dark, but darker than the snow. Starting with my HB, I'm going to indicate where the darkest dark are. So the creek is an area of darkness. On top of this HB, I will then use my 4B to make it even darker. But as a first step, I like to use my HB. And as I come here, I find that this creek wants to go beyond the line that I had. And right now, I mean, this whole area here is snow or ice on top of the creek. So I'm just going around the corner. I'm not going to do anything with this, keep it white for now, but I'm going to indicate this bottom part. So I'm coming here, coming down this way. And then down here, I'm going to indicate all of this. That's going to be dark. I'm just going to turn it on its side because it's going to be easier for me to work because of the way that the easel is. All right. And with my kneaded eraser, I can make some adjustments if I need to. Like, I think I came down a little too low here. And too much here. This is my creek. And this whole area is ice. In this ice here, there are some reflections, and that's why it's not all white. But we're gonna deal with this after we do the rest of the drawing. So now I have my creek, I have my trees, and the pine trees. At the bottom of the pine trees here, this is where we have the darkest dark in this whole area. The reason being that we have some of the pine trees that are down here, as well as this area is truly in the shade. So all of these trees are casting a shadow, very deep shadow here. And that's why, that's where the darkest dark is. So this whole area is going to be pretty dark. It's almost like, it almost like creates a line. It's not a straight line. And the trees are pretty dark. But I could use my 4B to put these trees in. Make sure the trees are not all the same size and all the exact same shape. Some are fatter, some are leaner. And you can go like this to make happy little trees, like Bob Ross would say. You can also go like this, really make it dark. And this one here is a little further away. There's also those tree trunks that are coming up here like this. These are pretty dark. They're here and there. All right. So right now we're just going to leave it like this. Now we're going to indicate this mountain here, because this mountain, compared to all the other mountains, has a lot of darkness in this area. It's probably a very deeply forested area, and snow did not catch on those trees. So I'm going back with my HB to do this. I'm going to use the same toes as this. Be careful not to make this back mountain not too dark for now. And then there's kind of like another one here. All right, so now we have this mountain. And now's the time to decide how dark does this creek has to be. So I'm going back to my 4B, and in certain areas of that creek, it's pretty dark. So if you look here, like over here, like especially on the sides, but also there are some lines like that goes across. And here it's very dark. And down here you can see extremely dark. So I'm going to indicate that with my 4B. I go back on here. And at this time, I'm totally ignoring this section of the water. I'm just leaving it white for now. And it's okay that it's not completely straight, because very rare that the snow and the water will make a perfect straight line. So I also wanted to let you know that I have updated my website to open a new class. This is the third of this 3-week session that we are doing today, the third class. So this is our last class in our session, but I'm starting a new session immediately on Monday. I know it's Memorial Day, but a lot of us will still be inside. So I thought might as well do a little drawing. And if you miss it, you can always watch a recording. I have created a page on my website where I posted the link to all the recordings, and I will continue to post the recordings there. This way, you won't have to save all these emails that I've been sending. You'll just have to go to the one page, and it'll be the same page all the time. So now we have the nice S. Well, it's almost like I don't know, two S's. This creek forms, and this line here, which is a very important line, has little mini trees on them. I'm going to use my 4H to indicate those mini trees. One of them is right here. So it's about here, and it's very, very small. It's a very small little tree. The reason it's small is because it's so far in the distance, not because it's a small tree. So there's two of them, actually. One other little one here. And then over here, there's another one. This one is skinnier, more like this, with maybe a little shrub on the side. And then another one here. But there's also a pine tree over here, a couple of little pine trees. So I'm using my HB to indicate those. There. This one, there's another one smaller right next to it. You can also go wild and put another one here if you want. And then there is another, I'm going back with my 4H. There's another little tree here. I don't know where it is. Anyway, now this line here looks more like something interesting. And using my kneaded eraser, I'm going to break this line because it's not an actual line. And this way the eye travels better if the line's broken, and also I can see it's broken there. So there. Now how about the next thing that we can do, we can either tackle all of this area here, which is the shadow, or we can do the mountains in the back. I think we're going to do the shadow right here. So now that this creek, that I'm going to show you a little closer, the creek is very dark, and we have indicated those pine trees in a very dark shadow here at the bottom. Now I'm going to, on the snowbank here that's on the side of the creek, I'm going to indicate the shadows, the nice patterns that the shadow is creating. So if I show you this one, you can see the snow is purple because it's in the shadow, but this is a tone that is lighter than the darkest dark in the creek. And it's darker than the white of the snow. When I did the tracing, I'm going to just show you this one here. I did this on purpose. So when I did the creek, I did all my lines horizontal. But when I did the shadow, I did them vertical. And you can see there's a net difference in tones. This is my darkest dark, this is my mid-tone, and then here is the lightest light. So now we're going to start doing the shadows by doing some vertical lines with the HB. Press lightly. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go very lightly over here. I'm not saving those white spots where there's light. On the snow, I'm going to use a kneaded eraser to indicate those. So there. So I only left a little white over here, and with the kneaded eraser, I'm going to mold and reinsert those this nice light, and it goes like this because it's a snowbank. A little bit over here too. There. So now I've done this. It's very faint. I think that my snow is not quite dark enough. So I'm going to use my HB again. This time I'm going to press a little bit more. And although I'm not extra careful, I'm going around those lighter areas that I just put. There. So now you can clean them up a little bit, but the edges of these things are not extremely straight. And in some areas there's some rocks. So for example, over here, there's some rocks that are on the side of the creek. And it's actually at the bottom of the snowbank. You can go like this and just indicate them. So sometimes it's just a lonely rock, or maybe it's up here. Or sometimes it goes in like this. So now we're getting this. With my kneaded eraser, I can erase some more if I want to. Now that I've indicated this, I'm going to work on the background mountains. If at any time you have questions, please let me know. So the background mountains have two main areas of shadows. So first I'm going to look at my tracing to decide where to put the shadows. So this background mountain has this whole area that will make it the shadow, and this whole shadow here, as well as around the trees. So this white area here is where the trees are. So I'm going to design.
Hey, Claire?
Yes.
When you're looking at your paper, it's sometimes hard to hear you. I don't know if you could just.
Okay. So
Thank you.
should I repeat this part, or it's good?
No, you can keep going.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna try and make sure that I talk more towards the computer. This way you guys will hear me better. So shade on the mountains. First on this one. Then the one in the middle over here. So it's this shadowy area. And through the trees, I can see the mountain peaking. Like for example, right here, in between here and down here. So I'm going to indicate those like this, like this. Leaving those trees white at this time. What about the sky? We haven't talked about the sky. So now that I've indicated a little bit of a shadow on those mountains, now if we look at the sky, well, the sky is lighter and darker than the mountains. So if I compare the sky with where the light is on the mountain, like right here, the sky is darker than the mountain where it's light, because the snow is lighter than the sky. But if I go over here and I compare the sky with the mountain, well, the mountain is darker than the sky. So how do we do this? We can make a choice, and we can decide. To make we can decide to make the sky our lightest light. In this way, we can focus on the rest in the painting or in our drawing. That's what we're going to do, actually. And as I'm looking here, even though I didn't put it on the tracing, I can see there is some shadow here at the bottom of this mountain. So I'm going to put it there. This whole mountain is actually in the shade. I'm going to put it here. Makes it interesting. Now, one thing that's very important is not to keep those sharp edges if we don't need to. See how you can see this sharp edge here? It looks like the mountain was pasted on. So with my kneaded eraser, I'm going to, you can just tap or erase with it. To remove this, excuse me. That's my 4H that I'm using right now. There. So now we don't have this line that we see. We don't have this line here that we still have here. So we need to also remove the line here and up here. You can also soften just by tapping on those lines. There. All right. Wow, look at that. Looks pretty cool. So now what we need, is there any questions so far from anyone? We need to indicate the icing on the cake. So these shadows here that they go across this snow and on the creek and then across this snow. there, we can imagine there were some very tall trees off to the side, and those are the ones that are casting this shadow. So as we're doing this, then we can also indicate this shadow, and we'll be drawing this part of the water as well. So let's add this water first. This water is right below this line. So I'm using my HB to do this. And it's not a very thick line. It just goes across like this. And up here, there's some pretty dark areas there. So this is the water. And there's also a shadow that's right here, right below. That's casted by a tree there. Right like this. And there seems to be like another one that goes down. I think I'm changing pencil because my pencil is running out. But I think this shadow here needs to be even darker. And therefore my creek needs to be very, very dark over here. That's my 4B. I'm putting the full pressure on this. So doing a drawing is always a question of everything is relative. So this dark is dark. Is this dark enough to respond to this lightest light and to respond to this mid-tone? So right now I'm realizing that this whole nice area here could be even darker. This is another shadow that I can see there. And now I'm going to add these shadows that are in the front. So they come from off the page actually, and this area is pretty dark. This area here. And you go here like this across. And then when they come on the other side, they go up first, then sideways, because they kind of go up the band. There's like a little snowbank here that it's gone up. And that's why on this side here it goes up a little bit. And then there's another one. And this one seems to be going a little in different places because maybe the ice is not all straight. No. Now the snowbank is not as high going up here. And there's another one there. So now with my 4B, that's where I can punch it up. Now I realize that this definitely needs to be very dark here. And that this can come in. So using my kneaded eraser, I can extend the snow a little bit this way. I can erase part of it. All right, so now I think what I need to do is indicate also that this here on the side, it's got some really dark, it's kind of like in the shadow, so the edge will be even darker. My 4B, doing this. Oh, and the trees. So now I'm going to show you. Starting to be very strong in terms of the composition. I'm going to also do one last thing for the trees, the one that have the leaves in them, because right now they're kind of funny looking because they're so white. We know from looking at the photo here that they're not as white as the snow. So the first thing that I'm going to do is sharpen my pencil. So my pencils are, okay, are sharp. So I'm using my HB to, I'm going to go back to this mountain area around the trees and go a little darker in the tone closer to the trees. So this is what I'm going to do. Just a tad darker, closer to the trees, like this. Because what I'm going to do afterwards is I'm going to use my 4H and indicate very light gray for those trees. Now's your chance to reshape those trees if you want to. And using my 4B, I'm going to make the pine trees even darker. This one here. Because those pine trees are like, they're like masses. All right, now using my 4H, I'm going to do a very light gray on those trees, although they look pretty nice now. But I'm going to do a very light gray on those trees, making sure that I'm drawing in a different direction from the direction that I used to do the mountains in the back. So the mountains in the back, when I used my pencil, I pretty much did I used a pencil going this way. So for the trees, I'm going to go this way. Because if you were to take a black and white photo of this painting and you look at the difference in tone between those trees and the mountains, you'll see that they're probably very close in gray if they're not the same. But as we're doing our drawing, we're going to cheat a little bit and say that these trees are a little lighter. So nice light gray going this way. for these trees. And of course, I'm simplifying these trees. And with my HB, if I need to, well, I want to make sure that these trees look like trees. So I'm going to put some branches very lightly. There. So now the trees look like trees. And this is all the time that we have today. I hope this was helpful. Now you can unmute yourself if you have any questions.